Jager, like Mayor Yeager.
But without the incident stream.
No, I put emails on mine.
Yeah.
It's my big brother.
Things to come out. Things to come.
Yeah. Yeah. So Matt, do we have everybody that we think we're going to be here? Okay. Nice tune, Sheriff. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. My name's Adam Yeager. I'm the commander of the Humboldt CHP area office, and I want to thank you for coming. And I know it was short notice, and I'm going to apologize. As you know, we got a press release out yesterday. We could not do anything on camera. It was fluid yesterday. We were, as my agency, we were caring for my officer and my officers in whole. Everybody that was involved in that, and the investigative team was busy. So I'm going to give you lay out a summary of what happened yesterday morning. So on December 18th, approximately 1:35 in the morning, we had a collision with a solo vehicle on 299, which is east of Willow Creek. They brought up a Google map for me here. The collision occurred. This is 299 that's facing eastbound. That's a telephone pole that was struck by the vehicle. A call went to our dispatch. We called an officer out of his residence. This is the Willow Creek resident post that's assigned to my Humboldt area office. That officer responded from his residence. He was by himself. He pulled up to the scene, and I'm sorry we don't have pictures. Again, this is quick, and we don't have time. We didn't have time to put that together for you. He pulled up to the scene, facing face to face with the vehicle that had crashed. So now they're facing each other. The solo driver was in the vehicle. My officer called for a tow truck. He got out of the vehicle, and the driver got out of the vehicle, and they had an encounter at the driver's door. Everything seemed normal at that point. They walked back together to the back of his car, or the car that he was driving, and there was a sudden, violent attack. Unexpected. He pulled out a machete quickly, and this is not the actual weapon, but this is an exact model of that machete. He swung it at my officer. My officer did a natural instinct, part of his training. He ducked. He put up his left arm in defense and was struck in the left arm. And you can imagine what that would do. It struck him not only in the arm, but it struck him in the hand as he's going backwards, and it hit him in the face. The officer, fearing for his life, of course, discharged his weapon as he was going down and struck the suspect, or driver. Let's call him the driver. Okay? The officer was able to miraculously maintain his balance, retreat around his patrol car, and he got into the driver's side of his patrol car and locked the doors and called for help. He was having some vision problems, which is obvious because of what happened. He wasn't sure where the driver was, but apparently the driver got back into his vehicle and was honking his horn, and he was able to put that out to our dispatch. We had another officer roll out of his residence that belongs to the Willow Creek Resident Post. And when that officer arrives, about 10 minutes, approximately, he sees the driver out of his car, laying next to the car, completely naked. And he wasn't when the first encounter happened. So he had got out and taken his clothes off and was completely naked. The officer did not see the weapon. He did not see the other officer. He had no idea where that officer was, but he also knew that the officer was somewhere and was talking on his radio. He tried to give some commands to the driver, and the driver was not complying to any commands and was being completely erratic and irrational. He used his conductive energy weapon, which is, a lot of people know that as a taser. He used his taser to try to subdue him and try to get him to comply and put his hands behind his back. He would not comply, even getting shots with the conductive energy weapon. Okay. Fortunately, 2 good Samaritans were nearby, knew the officer, asked him if he needed help, and he asked them yes, and so they helped him handcuff the driver. About the time that was happening, the paramedics were staging down the road. They showed up. Other officers had showed up, and CPR was started on the driver. And CPR was being done by one of my other officers that showed up. There were independent witnesses, aside from the Good Samaritans, that heard the crash, saw when the driver got out of the vehicle, saw his actions. He was throwing things from the car, throwing them in the road. He was irrational. My officer was taken by ambulance to Mad River. Let me back up a little bit. When the paramedics showed up and they were doing CPR, the driver ended up succumbing to his injuries. So he was pronounced deceased. My officer was taken to Mad River and ultimately flown by Cal Air flight to UC Davis for treatment, where he's still at and he's being treated. Very serious injuries. This is difficult. This is not something that any officer wants to encounter. It's sad. This is a 17-year-old kid from Humboldt. We're embedded in that community. We do things at the high school. We're part of that. That's what Willow Creek Resident Post is about. My officers live there. They know people. It's terrible. Our hearts go out to the family of this young man. It's terrible. But it's a terrible thing that happened. There's nothing we can do about it at this point. This investigation is still going on, and we have a lot of work to do. I'm not going to go into super details. I'm not going to give you the names of the officers yet. The officer that was severely injured has been on the job for 2 years, and the other officer's been on for 20 years. Hopefully by next week, I please ask you that we'll give you that information, and as more information comes forward, we'll be able to give that to you. But we need to give these officers some time and some privacy. Okay? The CERT team, which is made up of the Humboldt County CERT team, or Critical Incident Response Team, is investigating. My investigators are doing a parallel administrative investigation. with them, but ultimately that they are conducting that investigation. So it's completely independent, away from our agency. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. Yes.
Can you tell us the name of the driver of the vehicle, the 17-year-old, or confirm a name?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Being attacked with the machete, we have been told that he did lose fingers in that attack. So
he's got severe injuries, serious injuries.
Okay. We also have learned that the trooper attacked may have been from Reading, trained mentor there, assigned here, part of the resident officer program. Can you confirm any of that information?
No, he just recently transferred to my area from the Bay Area.
Can you say if the driver of the vehicle was on any kind of drugs at the time?
I can't.
Do we know exact reason why he may have attacked this officer?
No.
Is there any fear for the officer's safety at this time? Maybe a reason why he was taken to UC Davis or anything like that?
He was taken to UC Davis because he has severe injuries that cannot be treated here.
Okay. A fear for the officers involved?
No.
Do you have anything that you would say to the people of Humboldt that?
Well, I think I said that. We feel terrible about this, and we feel terrible for that family. And we're, like I said, we just did a Red Ribbon Start Smart. We're involved in that high school, that community, and Willow Creek community. That's what it's about, working in a resident bus and about, period, being in law enforcement. But we are very embedded in that community.
Given that, was the driver familiar to the officer?
No.
Is there any, can you say whether the driver has had any previous encounters with law enforcement?
I don't know.
What time was the driver pronounced dead, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have that exact time.
I was kind of looking for a chronology. Like, when you say the second officer arrived about 10 minutes after the altercation, the original altercation at which shots were fired. And do you know how long it took for the ambulance to be cleared to?
I think that will come out when we complete the investigation timeline, but I think you can, we've got a crash at 1:30, right? We have officers responding, we have a critical incident that happens, I don't have all those times for you, sorry.
I have some questions. Can you elaborate on the injuries? I think you said hand and an arm and face.
Yeah.
Okay. And then is the 17-year-old Humboldt High School student correct?
I don't want to give that information.
Male or female?
It's a male.
Okay. And then is there an autopsy scheduled and for when?
I believe there's an autopsy schedule. I'm not sure when.
Okay. And it was my understanding, I'm just thinking in light of Ferguson, is there any difference in how the investigation is ongoing or how it will be conducted or anything like that?
I can't speak to Ferguson, but I have complete confidence in our team. It's a great team made up from, top-notch detectives from every agency.
All right. And do you know if there was a dash cam on the...
We do have a camera in our vehicle, yes.
Do you have any more information about where the driver was shot or how the driver was shot?
I don't. That's going to be something the investigators will be able to tell.
And I just want to make sure I understand the chronology of the events correctly. So, the driver encountered the officer, all seemed normal, and then attacked him for no reason. Now, after the driver was shot, he went back into the car and removed his clothes?
I'm not sure at what point where he removed his clothes. But he did sometime before the other officer showed up, he had removed his clothes.
But it was, you don't know if it was before or after the shooting?
It was after.
Oh, after.
After.
Okay. And you said that the driver went with the officer to the back of his car?
This is just a matter of seconds, getting out, the contact, and walking back to the car. Yeah.
Was there a reason the driver left the car, and was this on the officer's request, or?
I don't know that.
Okay. Was there anything in the back of the car?
I don't know that either. That's the investigators are going to be doing that.
Okay. And then after the attack and shooting, he gets back into the car. That's when other officers showed up, and they encountered him and tasered him at that point? He resisted and they tasered him?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if you want to call resisting, he was not complying with their orders to put his hands behind his back so they could cuff him.
He was laying on the ground.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes.
And he was not struggling. He was not.
He was acting very erratic and was, he was not cooperating. He was acting very erratic.
Did he still have the machete at that point?
No, I stated that. The officer showed up that was not, didn't see it.
But it was recovered.
Absolutely.
What was his location?
I can't speak to that either.
You know, I think we need to keep in mind that Captain Yeager, his portion of this investigation is dealing with the officer-involved incident, and the investigation clearly falls under my office and the CERT team, so that's why he doesn't have a lot of detailed information about the actual investigation itself. And there's a reason why we keep that, apart from each other, because we're dealing with two different entities here.
Let me add something else too that, thank you, Sheriff, because I know that there's a recording on Lost Coast with the radio transmission, and there was a speak of the ASP. The officer thought, because it's similar, he thought he was being hit with an ASP or something to that effect. And if you know what an ASP is, it's a collapsible baton that most officers carry now. Then that's what he likely to. When he reacted and turned and put up, he thought he was being hit with an ASP, and he had put that out to our dispatch that he was struck in the head and was struck in the arm with an ASP, and so I just want that out there. That's what he thought, but that's it wasn't. It's what it was.
And also there was verbiage of no weapon, basically talking in regards to the suspect. That would have been the first officer or the second officer. Basically, they couldn't locate it at the time.
Yeah, I didn't listen to all that, but I would be speculating that I think the question, arriving officers are wondering if there's a weapon, meaning a gun. Is there a gun that they have to worry about when they show up?
And you might have said it, I don't know if I caught it, but what was the type of vehicle that the driver was using?
It was a Nissan. I don't know what year. You don't know? It was a Nissan sedan.
And where did he get the machete? Did he pull it out of the trunk, or did he have it when he was leaving the car? Or?
No, we're not sure because it happened so fast. Where that machete came from, I'd be speculating on that. So that's, again, they're going to determine that. But we're talking about seconds from the time the officer greets him, meets him, and they turn and walk, and then the surprise attack happens quickly. So not sure. Yes.
Is there any indication of what caused the initial traffic accident?
No.
And we heard there may have been an incident at Blue High School yesterday that caused the district to close all schools today. Do you have any knowledge of that, or can you talk about what that may have been?
I don't really have any knowledge of that. I know that obviously this is a very traumatic thing for the community, and yeah.
Can I ask the sheriff. I mean, I've heard that as well, that there's been some, the schools in Humboldt were closed today because of the precaution letting, essentially. Do you know if that's the case?
Well, I don't know if you read the statement put out by the Humboldt tribe and by the school district. I think that speaks to the reason why they closed it. It's a traumatic incident, involved a student from the school and a family member from the valley. I think there was a lot of concern about that, about the well-being of everyone involved. I do want to caution everybody, you have to understand that this investigation is rather fluid and it's very fresh. We haven't even had a chance to really talk to the officer and get a statement from him as to how chronologically, how it actually happened. We're reconstructing everything based upon the evidence at hand, based upon independent witnesses and that type of thing. So we're really fresh into this investigation. What we did do, again, this is under the jurisdiction of the sheriff. It happened in the county. What we did do immediately was enact our critical incident response team. We had officers from Eureka, Fortuna, Arcata, and of course, sheriff's investigators took the lead in this investigation. So, you know, you asked about an autopsy and all the other things that go along with it. Those things are pending. We wanted to make sure that we put this information out to the public now, and I think Captain Yeager has pretty well described that. But as far as the investigative steps and where we're at, it's really too early to speculate, and I'm afraid that if we put that information out in this speculative state, that it may be misunderstood. But we are diligently working on this, and we hope to have some idea by next week to put out a better statement as to how this investigation is being conducted and where we're at. And so at this time, I don't really know. I think you've answered the questions fairly well. Again, it's a lot of it is still dependent on the officer's observations and what happened in real time at the time the incident occurred. But I'd be happy to answer other questions if I can. But it's kind of where we're at.
I just have one more question for Captain Yeager. You said that the injured officer had recently transferred to your area. Can you be any more specific than that?
From the Bay Area. From the Bay Area.
And how recently?
December 2nd.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Of this year?
Yes.
And so prior to that, he had 2 years experience with this CHP?
Yes.
Do you know when the most recent, prior to this, officer involved shooting was with the CHP?
Excuse me?
Within the CHP, before this incident, when was the last officer involved shooting?
Are you talking about within Humboldt County or
Yeah.
statewide?
Within Humboldt County area.
2007, 8, somewhere there, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was 2007 or 8. There was a officer involved shooting on 299, I believe. Yeah.
So within Humboldt County?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.